everyone, welcome to the Superwomen channel. It is time to get to know another lady in TV, film and broadcasting, the latter of the three today, and we welcome the one and only Jamz Supernova. She's a new music tastemaker, a radio DJ on Xtra, also on the Selector, which is a global radio show, goes out around the world, a DJ in her own right, label owner, oh my God, you do so many things, and also a purveyor of one of the most smoothest and soothing voices on the radio. Hi Jamz, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm really well, thank you. I'm blushing a little bit. That was a really nice intro. Thank you. I hope my voice, my husky tones come through video as well as they do on the radio. I hope.
Yeah, they do, definitely. Okay.
Thank you.
Very glad to have you with us. How has it all been for you? Like, how's lockdown been and this period of time, which has just been so weird for everybody?
Yeah, I think that's the best word to describe it, really. It has been weird. And I literally, before we went into lockdown, I just got back from Johannesburg and Malawi. I was with Selector Radio, and I had the whole, I was going to come back for a week and then head back off and sort of kickstart my summer, really. It was going to start from then onwards into festivals. And so then that obviously kind of all got like paused, and then I was grounded, and I think it's been the longest I've been home in one place for a good year or so. So it's been interesting. It's been weird trying to like acclimatise, like making the radio shows from home, because I definitely thrive in a live radio sense. I've always hated doing pre-records, even when I do my Tuesday show on Xtra. I'll always prefer it to be live. I pre-rec maybe like twice a year if I have to. Right. So it's having to adjust to that. But then there's been some I think it's been a good time for stillness and to reflect and kind of really think about what I really want like going forward. And even just kind of like I've been geeking out on all the different like technology ways of like still doing what you would normally do, but from your house. So like I just did an interview earlier today with an artist for my show, and it was on this thing called Clean Feed, and you're just speaking through a browser, and I've got my mic, and it just sounded amazing. It sounded like we were in the same room. So that like those kind of things blow my mind, like that resourcefulness.
Yeah, definitely. I know what you mean. It's like just bringing everything that we do normally that we would do in a studio, but it's amazing how much technology is out there for live streams and for making stuff sound like you're in a studio or face to face. It's crazy. So have you been pre-recording your show since the beginning of lockdown then?
Yeah, literally. Yeah. I went in maybe basically from April onwards. So I'm pre-recording both shows. So I do on a Monday, I have like a double bubble. So I pre-record the Xtra show like 12 till 3, and then I pre-record the Selector radio show 4 till 7. So on Mondays, I call them Mammoth Mondays. Yeah.
Get it out of the way, like first day out the
way.
Yeah.
Once that's over, then the rest of the week feels more manageable, because it is. Whilst I enjoy doing the actual show, pre-recording I find is a lot of a longer winded way of making radio.
Do you try and do it live though, like as live? Because I find with pre-records, the scrutiny that I put on them is 10 times what you would in a live radio setting, Like,
yeah. I try and do it as live. There have times that I like just do a pickup, because you can hear you're hearing yourself in a different way. And if I'm like, okay, I really just cocked that link up, I can just go back and just do it again. But then knowing that just means like there was one week I was recording and it took me 10 minutes to get past the first link because I just kept on going back. So I love the aspect of live radio in that, like, sometimes I'm not the most like clear person, or I might mumble my words up, but I think that's partly why people like me as a broadcaster. But you can make quick little jokes and be witty about it and react to it, whereas on a pre-record it just doesn't sound right.
Is it harder to connect to an audience if you're pre-recording? Like how do you even do that?
I think it's harder. I think what's been helpful for me, like connecting with the audience, is I schedule my tweets. So during the show, I'm tweeting all the records that I'm playing, and whilst the show's going out, I'm actually kind of like live reading the tweets that are coming in, and then I store them up, and then we'll shout people out the next week. And that's been quite nice. Like I felt like I've been connected to an audience in a different way, because when my show was previously on, it was on like 9 to 11, and we might get the odd tweet here or there, but we've been moved to 7 p.m. For the lockdown schedule, and just seeing the reaction of people that have never heard of me before and felt like they needed that radio show for them in these times has been a nicer way to connect, actually.
Yeah. I listened to it in the garden actually today.
Oh,
And
yes.
it is such a soothing, as I said at the beginning, like it's a really beautiful listen. You know, there's so many different vibes going on musically from around the world. You've got, it's rooted in R&B and hip hop, but then it spans jazz and electronic music and neo soul and songwriting stuff. And I had it on, like, I've got a bit of a like jungle garden, all the trees need a haircut. And I just lay there and like was looking up at the nature with it on, and just, it was like a really lovely moment. It sounds like you could have been in the studios. Like,
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot. Thank you.
So what was your path into radio?
So I'd initially, when I was growing up, I kind of really wanted to be a TV presenter. I always listened to a lot of radio. I've been listening to radio since I was like 11 or 10 years old, even like recording the chart show, sorry. It was like Dr. Fox. And then I discovered pirate radio when I was like 13. And then Choice FM at the time, that's what it was called. So I was always really invested in radio. Even when I got a DAB for the first time, it was a Freeview box. So I was able to get one extra on my TV, and that was when I was about 15. So I was really invested in radio, but I didn't really think of it as a thing for me. I kind of wanted to be more of a TV presenter, like on your MTV or T4. But I went to college at the Brit School, so I was like 16, and they had a radio studio there, and they had a station called Brit FM. And then that's kind of like when the penny clicked. I was like, oh, it could be feasible that I could also do radio as well. So I started kind of learning the ins and outs of radio there. And I decided that I really wanted to be on One Extra. Like, that was the one goal that I had. I want to be on One Extra. So I applied for their internship. So I applied 3 times. The first time I didn't hear anything back. Second time I didn't hear anything back. And then the third time I got offered an interview, and then I got offered a 2-month placement. So I was 19 at the time. So I worked there during the summer. And whilst I was doing that, so it was kind of like the summer after I just left college, I was also on a community radio station called Sydenham FM in Southeast London. And then, so that, I was just kind of like from the age of like 17, really, I kind of had a radio show on various different stations, and then working at One Extra, even from a behind the scenes standpoint, it kind of really solidified that this was like the path for me.
Yeah. And was there, I mean, you said it was a big part of your life, like Dr. Fox, I remember that, Capital FM. I came up to Leicester Square with my mum. I was like looking up at the building, like, oh my God, that's where they, you know, they do the radio, like amazing. Because I'd get in the car and straight away take it off, like whatever my mum used to listen to. It wasn't Radio 4. It was quite often Radio 4, but there was like a long wave news channel, and I'd take it off that and put it straight onto the music channels, much to her annoyance. But who was a big kind of influence on you? Like, were your parents feeding you a lot of music from a young age, or brothers or sisters, or how did that come into your life?
Yeah, definitely. My parents are both like massive music fans. You know, the kind of people that would have wall-to-wall CDs, or if something comes out, like my dad used to be like a bit of a wheeler and dealer when it came to music, and like buy it, record it, tape it over and take it back. So we just had like loads of blank CDs in the house, and that's kind of like the nature of what we would do. So like if someone got like, I remember like my uncle and my aunts are my mum, they're like similar age, so it's quite like a close-knit family on that side. So I remember like my uncle buying the new Alicia Keys record, and his first point of call was to come round and let us record it so we could have a copy of it as well. So we just constantly always like swapping music, changing it between. I'd always get told off for keeping my dad's CDs for too long because he didn't live with me. So he'd be like, you took that Drew Hill CD and it's my favourite CD and you just haven't given it back. I need it back. So yeah, they definitely fed me a lot of music. My mum, musically, she loves like 90s R&B, but then she also loves like Alanis Morissette. I would be battling her in the car because she wants to listen to XFM and I'm wanting to listen to Choice FM. Who else does she like? Catatonia, I think her name is, and Keris Matthews and people like that. And then my dad is definitely like kind of more of like an R&B head, but then he also loves jazz music. So I was just kind of fed a lot of music, and they enjoyed playing music that their parents listened to. So like my mom and my uncle and my aunt and stuff would kind of get up the old reggae that they would hear my granddad playing, or the old sort of like the Carpenters that they would hear my nan playing. So yeah, it's just our family, if we're having a gathering, then it's a fight over the aux cable.
Do you remember like any presenters that were, you know, hugely influential to you, and any female presenters that you kind of looked up to?
I think initially who I was listening to, so there was Asha and Martin, who was on Choice FM in the morning. I loved their show. I also remember listening to Ace and Viz on One Extra, and they felt like not that far away from my age, and they'd gone to the Brit School, so it felt like, you know, it felt more achievable. Trevor Nelson, I listened to a lot of Trevor Nelson. There's a guy that did an R&B show called Ronnie Harrell on a Monday night on One Extra. There's someone called Gavin D, or G-Child, sorry, who went on to become my mentor, who also did a show on One Extra. And then female-wise, I did listen to a lot, in terms of like as a broadcaster, not necessarily musically for me, but I did listen to a lot of Fern Cotton as a sort of like 17, 18-year-old, kind of studying the way that she would deliver her links. I was lucky enough to work closely with and a fan of Gemma Kearney, and her story, again, someone else that had gone to the Brit School. But I think being in the building of One Extra, when I finally got there, there was a lot of women for me to, not just in front of the scenes, but behind the scenes, that to look up to, like one of the senior producers, her name's Janine Campadu. She's now the commissioning editor for One Extra. She's really high up in One Extra, but she'd gone to the Brit School and like worked her way up from 19 to like one of the highest roles. And as a black woman, seeing her, you know, when I went there to work there, it was amazing. And a lot of the senior producers at One Extra, when I got there at 19, were women, and often women of colour. So that was really, for me, exciting to see. And I hadn't really, you know, I thought in a way, looking back now, I kind of think it was quite a sheltered experience, because then when I went to work in other areas of the industry, outside of radio, or other areas of the music industry, I'm thinking that it's all like the 8th floor on BBC, and then you're like, oh, hold on a minute, I'm the only one, I'm the only woman here, and I'm the only black person. This is weird.
God, that's so, yeah, that must be, yeah, it's so important, isn't it, to be able to see people like yourself and know that it's like possible to reach those levels in the industry.
And I think we are seeing things change a bit now. You know, certainly with the BBC, we've got Lorna Clark as controller of pop. She's a fantastic, amazing woman. And how have you found it in radio? Have you found it changing over the years in terms of representation of diversity, and also the amount of women on air? Because it's a bit of a tricky one, I think, with radio. It's like, I feel, personally, having been in the industry for 12 years, it's like, I feel like things have changed, but then sometimes you look at schedules, broadly speaking, on various radio stations, and there'll still be 2 women on Monday to Friday out of what, like 8 slots a day?
Yeah, I definitely think that we still have a way to go. I do think that I remember there being a conversation when I was working more behind the scenes at One Extra, where they looked at the schedule and they realised that on a Saturday night, from the hours of from 1 p.m. till the next day, you wouldn't hear female voice. And they were like, that has to change, that we can't have that much period of time go by over a schedule that you don't hear a female voice. So I remember that being like an active discussion, and I remember it being an active discussion again with Janine in her position, wanting to make the schedule as 50-50 as possible, and really looking at the schedule and trying to bring more women through. I actually worked with, I did some mentoring. I think it was the Sound Women of Sound. And I mentored this amazing broadcaster who's on Heart FM, but she's in one of the regions. So she's got like a massive breakfast show, but in one of the regions. I'm not sure exactly where it is. And she was telling me her experience there, and basically just how it just sounded like she was working with just a load of old dinosaurs, and they wouldn't let her drive the desk. She wasn't allowed to do the show without a male co-host. And hearing those stories, I was just like so shocked, you know, that's still happening. And she's a woman that is, you know, senior to me, more experienced than me. And in this, you know, 2019, that's when it was, his experience in that kind of sexism was quite baffling. So I think that there's definitely areas of radio that have work to do. And I think even if you look at from a management side of things, once you start to go up and up and up again, that's when you really start to see the people changing, and they're the people that are ultimately making the final decisions. And maybe if they're not, you know, women or diverse, and then they're not going to have those interests at heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of some shows, not to name any names, but where the female co-host can't backhand a track, so come off the back of a track.
It's so wild when you hear those things, isn't it? It makes you feel like, you know, I don't know, it makes you feel like we're talking like we're in the 1950s.
Yeah, very, very odd. In the session we did with Kate Lawler, who's also a broadcaster, we were kind of talking about how you find your style and your voice as a presenter. Did that come quite naturally to you, kind of deciding what kind of a broadcaster you're going to be and what you're going to focus on?
No, it took me so long to find my voice. So, but whilst I was working at One Xtra as an intern, I just got a show on Represent, which is like a youth station based in Southeast London. So when I first got the show on there, I basically did a show where I copied everything that Mr. Jam did. So I stole all his music and just basically regurgitated his show. And then they offered me a drive time show. And I was like, yeah, I want to be a daytime presenter. That's it. I'm going to be daytime, you know, more personality driven.
Yeah.
And then I did that for like 9 months. But then the specialist side of me just slowly started creeping in more and more. And that was kind of around the time that I discovered the alternative R&B scene on SoundCloud. And I was really invested in it and really part of it and trying to bring that on air. And then I decided, right, no, I'm going to be a specialist DJ. And then they were like, okay, if you want to be a specialist DJ, then you need to learn how to DJ as well, because, you know, you're going to get booked for gigs and stuff. So I basically like spent a lot of years like flip-flopping, sort of in those formative years from 19 to 23, I'd say, trying out different things. And then it all kind of weirdly, I'm specialist to the death of me. Like, this is me. All I care about is the music. And then I got offered a daytime slot on One Xtra, which I took because I was like, this is my chance. So then I ended up doing a daytime show on One Xtra for 6 months, and then they gave me a specialist show as well. So I did daytime and specialist, and then now I'm back to just specialist. I decided last year that daytime wasn't for me again. So it's weird. I don't think so. In terms of like flipping, and when I look back now, I think that doing each of those different things, whether it be specialist or daytime, enabled me to become a better broadcaster in the long term. I don't think it matters if you change and you grow, and that's all right. But in terms of like vocally finding my voice, that's been another journey. If I listen back to my old demos that I would have sent in, I was like, hi, this is Jamz Supernova, and you're listening to, you know, like really like projecting, thinking that I had to project and be really shiny. And it was working alongside people like Trevor Nelson when I was behind the scenes, getting to see him broadcast. And the way that when he would take his mic down, he would sound exactly the same as he did when he was on air, just less swearing. So seeing him do that, and I'm like, okay, that's, you know, or watching for me, like, yeah, or even Annie's very much the same, Annie Mac. And even like a DJ Target and working with Toddler, like they don't speak coherently sometimes. They make mistakes, they fumble over their words, but they're endearing because they're being 100% themselves. So that's kind of how I was like able to find my voice. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me speak how I would speak as I'm speaking to a friend. You know, my best way to do that was to imagine that actually no one's listening, or I'm just having a conversation. If this is my thought process. And secondly, not to get frustrated when I make mistakes, because I'm human and people want to hear humans on the radio. They don't want someone that's perfect and shiny and doesn't have any edge. So yeah, that's kind of my journey, I guess.
Do you have any advice for anyone who's going through that journey now, like who's still trying to find their voice?
I would say listen back to yourself. I listen back to every show. I've always listened back to every show, even as painful as it might be sometimes, and I annoy myself. I listen back to the Selector show and the One Xtra show. And sometimes I can't go to bed until I listen back. So I definitely say listen back to yourself. I would say listen to lots of different types of radio. I think something that actually has made me even in recent couple of months, made me a better interviewer or try to be a better interviewer. I was listening to podcasts, because podcasts, you know, I was listening to Reggie Yates, did this podcast for a brand, and he just asked some amazing questions that it can be really easy to get stuck in a rut and ask the same questions and, you know, tell me your process, which I do a lot. And so it's like thinking of different ways to frame things, or thinking of different like conversation starters. And I think as well, like in terms of like finding your voice in terms of like daytime or specialist, I don't know if there now needs to be such a divide, because, you know, if you are into music, you can bring that in, and sometimes it's nice to have a specialist show that has a personality attached with it as well. So I wouldn't kind of be as hard on yourself. I think that was a very kind of old school radio critique of back in the day, like you need to be one thing or the other and the two don't merge. I think now they can merge.
Yeah. Do you find it's like wearing two hats, doing the commercial thing and then the specialist thing? When you kind of when it's that on moment, the mic goes up. Do you feel like there's a difference in who you are behind the mic at that point?
I think I was definitely a lot more relaxed doing my Tuesday show. I think my Tuesday show feels like the most me. Like the daytime show I could do, and I could turn it on, and I did have fun, and I was having fun, I was enjoying it. But there were moments when I felt like this isn't me. I don't really care what I'm talking about right now. Like I don't really care what Drake's just done. So there's definitely, and that's what kind of made me make my decision when I got to the point that I just couldn't be bothered to speak on air anymore on the weekend show. I was just like, if it's not about the music, I just can't. And that's what kind of led me to make my decision. But there are moments that I try now when I'm doing my specialist show to remember to bring in that daytime moment. If it's just something personal, telling a story or something that, because people want to know about you as well and what you've been up to and the things you enjoy kind of outside of that. And I think I have to remind myself sometimes to make space in the show for those moments to shine through.
That must be quite hard, like especially now with everything that's going on. And I don't know if like you've been struggling with like lockdown or anything like that, but like, obviously we're in a global pandemic. Like how do you confront those kind of big issues? And, do you have to? Can you just make light of them? Or do you just kind of, I don't know, give people a bit of light relief? What's your approach?
I think mine's always light relief, I guess. I try not to. The only time I like to do things is if it's educational, if I'm going to kind of go down that route. But and I mean, someone that I think is really good at like talking about things that are happening but making it relatable is like Mr. Jam does that really well, and on his daytime show, on his drive time show. But I guess sometimes I feel like the best way that I can connect on that way and not ignore what's happening is to tell you maybe how I've been feeling, how I think that people are feeling, and what music I think can help you through that. So I'll definitely, I think it's important to reference rather than being like, nothing's happening, because people, especially in these times, people need the radio. People have been needing the radio. They've been really finding it. All those people that live on their own with no one to talk to all day, have really relied on the radio.
Yeah, it's been a lifeline, the radio. I've found myself at the beginning of lockdown, both my housemates went to different parts of the country. So I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, put the radio on, and it just instantly feels just lightens the mood in the room of just you on your own.
Yeah, with the silence, white noise. Yeah.
You've had, well, I mean, off topic for a sec. You've got a puppy, haven't you?
Yeah, I do.
A puppy and also gardening. I do quite a lot of gardening, which I heard on the show.
That's been my lockdown routine, basically. So I got my puppy, Shay, at the end of January. So he's basically living his best life with us because we're home 24/7. And then we decided whilst we were on lockdown, like, because we've got this massive garden, I live like in a communal kind of house. Well, I've got my own flat. But all the flats are part of one community, if that makes any sense. So we've got a communal garden, and there's this big, massive back area that has been like left to overgrow. And we were like thinking, like during lockdown, it's such a privilege to have a garden, and we've just sort of left it and not really touched it. So we thought, like, out of principle, we need to get down there and sort it out.
And then a puppy, just like the perfect. Couldn't have got a puppy at a better time.
I know. He's really fun. He's made. Do you know what? If we didn't have him, I live with my partner. I think if we didn't have him, I don't think I would have been able to get through lockdown, because he just adds a bit of variety to your day. You don't know what mood he's going to wake up in, what he needs. He likes to, getting me out in nature. Maybe I wouldn't have left the house. Maybe I might have just stayed in. I wouldn't have gone for a walk. You have to go for a walk twice a day. So he's fun. Yeah.
Oh, what kind of puppy is he?
He's a Cavapoo.
Oh.
So he's a spaniel and a poodle. Yeah, it's very cute. Yeah.
Very cute. I've seen him. I've seen everything.
And so how is it now? Like, obviously when we're locked down, I guess a big part of your job is like going to gigs and listening to live music. Like how are you kind of pivoting in that sense? Are you just discovering new artists online? Are they contacting you? How does it work?
Well, my show's kind of always been driven by like my musical discovery online. Like I've spent, built my career on SoundCloud. So that's kind of always been my first point of call to find music. And then I would go and see them live if I had played them or supported them, which I know kind of in the band world or in the indie world, you might go and see someone you haven't heard of and then you might listen to their music. But yeah, so I kind of spend a lot of time on the internet searching for music for my show. So it takes me about a day roughly to pick the music. So I basically just sit there. I have my kind of routine. I like to like read and listen at the same time. So I might go on blogs and read articles, and even clicking on things that I know I'm not going to play or it's not right for me, but I just like to be interested in everything that's coming out. Then I've got my favourite playlist that I go through. And then my last point of call is my email. So everyone's been like to me, how have you been finding it? Do you think music slowed down? But for the world of music that I support, there's so much music, and my show got extended to 3 hours and I'm still chopping 20 tracks out of my show a week because I can't fit them all in. And they're music songs that I would like to play, I just don't have the space to play them. And I think that's because like my scene, a lot of people already had they were bedroom producers essentially, or they started a lot of things in their bedroom. So for them, lockdown hasn't really hindered them from releasing music at all. They're just going for it crazy.
What are you looking for when you do that search?
I genuinely feel like I got my show based off of my taste, so I have to kind of really like knuckle down as to why I like a record and really want to, because there's so much records that are nice. There's a lot of records that are nice, but I want a record that makes me either think something, whether it's lyrically or think about something that was interesting in the production. I want a record that is at least trying to be different, because sometimes we'll play a record on the radio, maybe I don't know how I feel about it, but I like the fact that it's so different. And then you're putting against, like, there's so many songs that sound similar. So a radio show would be boring if you had 12 songs that all have a similar kind of tempo and a flow. So then I'm kind of thinking about songs for different sections of the show to kind of build the tempo up and bring the tempo down. And so I probably make it more complicated than I need to make it. But yeah, it's a long process, but it works.
How long do you give tracks? Do you have to be quite ruthless because of time? If 30 seconds in you're just not feeling it, what's your time frame? I kind of give it 30 seconds, but I won't listen from 30 seconds. I listen to the intro, hop in a minute, listen for another couple, 10, 20 seconds, then hop in again, and then see if something's connected. If something's connected, then I'll go back and listen to it, and not in full, but a good chunk of the track. But this, in lockdown, what it has given me is a bit more time to, if I talk to myself when I'm like planning the show, and I'm like, just listen to it one more time, just go on, just check it out again. And I wouldn't normally have had the time to have done that. I might be like, oh, the chord's off, no, I'm not even going to go there. So I've kind of like slowed down the process a little bit to kind of listen to them again. And then even when I have like my long list of tracks, then I'll go through them all and listen to them and actually think, do I really want to play this? Are you sure? But you should play this. I don't know. It's like this weird little like inner monologue that I have going on. Yeah. I was going to ask you that. It's kind of like having more time to put into all these various different, because, we're going to talk about the label as well, but the label and the radio and all of these different things. And it's like we've almost had more time. Have you found that in a way you've been even more busy than normally going out and work and stuff? 100%. I actually kind of feel in like a weird way that like I have a 9 to 5. Yeah. And it didn't really feel like that before. Like radio and running a label didn't feel like a 9 to 5, but I feel like waking up, coming to the desk, sitting here every day of the week does feel like that. And I think, I'm not sure if it's me or my to-do list, but the to-do list just keeps on growing and it never ends, which is really, really strange, because you would think that, by not going into radio, you'd have more time, or by, touring and DJing, you wouldn't have time for other things. But I feel like that time has been sort of filled up in other ways. But I do feel busy. I had to just, like yesterday, just take a moment and just chill in the garden, because I thought realistically by now I would have taken a holiday in life, in the year. It's like April would have been when I would have taken a quick week break somewhere. And it kind of feels like for people that maybe haven't been furloughed, that you're kind of like, you're on a mission to you're not, you're not a key worker, but you feel like you have to do your bit, and your bit means carrying on. So yeah, it's important to like take time for yourself as well. Yeah, definitely. It can be a bit overwhelming, I think, when well, the pressure that you put on yourself as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, it's mostly internal.
Yeah, to make sure you're getting the things out and the shows out and the
Mm-hmm.
content out and everything. And it's just, I felt a bit the same. Just at times we felt a bit overwhelmed by what normally in life I'm just like, you know, I have a busy period of time where I'm working loads and I feel really great about it. And then, yeah,
there's no separation, is there? It's like, I've literally been sat in this position 8 a.m. this morning. I'm probably going to be here for another 2 hours. And it's like, you just don't, there's no like home and work. It's just all blended into one. I mean, my one rule is not working in my bed. Like I can't.
I love working in bed sometimes.
No, I need like a separate space. Otherwise, I'm just fucked.
I used to love it. I haven't worked in my bed at all since lockdown. Actually, thinking about it.
I do have my like living room set up. The only time I work in bed is like if like on a Saturday, if I really need to get something done, but I think it's a Saturday and I shouldn't be working, so I'm just going to do it from bed instead. But I feel like the lockdown has kind of given me a bit of perspective, because now I like, you know, trying to think about a time to switch off, because my partner makes music and he's got the bedroom, so he's put his studio in the wardrobe. And we were both the kind of people that will just go and go and go. And we'll go, it's 1 a.m. now and we both haven't stopped working. So we've been quite strict on ourselves, like, right, let's have dinner together, 10 o'clock, let's both stop what we're doing and watch something and then go to bed. But I think that, and this perspective is like, does that email need to be sent right now? Like, is it going to change the world if I don't send that email at 2 a.m. when I could send it at 8 a.m. when I'm refreshed? And nothing's going to change. The world's not going to move. So definitely made me think a lot in that line. And even from a DJ standpoint, I think I would kind of sometimes like kill myself to do gigs just to do gigs. Whereas like looking back in hindsight, I'm like, and the slowing down of everything, I think like going into next year, I'm just going to be like really, really, really picky about the gigs that I do. Is this gig going to nourish me? Is it going to move the dial? You know, do I need it financially? Because I've realized in this period of time, I have other work that DJing is not my financial provider. So I need to make the DJ gigs that I do the most enjoyable and the most nourishing for me. So it's definitely, it will change the way I work, 100%.
Yeah. We should talk about Future Bounce, which is your record label.
Yeah.
It's out a lot of great music.
Thank you.
Loving the producer Hagen that you've been plugging, and then also you hooked me up with Tongues as well.
Yes.
The Soho radio show. So tell me a little bit about this journey, and when did you start the label, and how has it been kind of essentially kind of taking on a whole other career, really, like on top of what you already did?
Yeah, it's a weird one because everyone always said to me quite early on, you should start a label. And I kind of always like resisted it because I just thought I just don't know how, and I just don't have the time to work it out. But I started getting close with an artist, and they needed some funding. So I thought, I know people at a distributor, let me go and ask them for some funding for you. So I went to go and ask them for her, and then they were basically like, yeah, to be honest, we'd rather give you money to start your own label. And then I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, all right then, maybe it is time now. It's, you know, it'd be stupid of me to say no. And luckily my manager, she had, her previous job was a label managing MTA, which is Chase and Status's label. So it kind of felt like she was like, okay, cool, I'll run it with you. Let's do it together. So she kind of gave me the back knowledge of all the legal side of things, all the, you know, the things that you don't think you need to know about, and I kind of drove the creative side of things. So she was there like the first year, definitely holding my hand. It wasn't like a lone job, and I definitely have to big her up because she helped me out a lot and definitely pushed me a lot further than I thought the label could even go. Taught me how to do release plans and, you know, how to think about marketing. And then now I'm kind of riding solo with the label, but a lot of what we did in the early days kind of carry through, and it's just so much trial and error. And like but there's parts of the job I think in another world I would have been good at. Like I would be a great PR. I would have been a great PR person. Like I'm a great plugger. I'm the best radio plugger I know. Like I'm employing a plugger for my next release on the label, which is a longer term sort of EP. And it's like, I said to the artist, I was like, I can't get a plugger on board unless they can assure me they can get for you what I can't get for you. Otherwise we're just pissing money up the wall. It doesn't make any sense. So I kind of relish in those roles, and I get really excited. Like I went on online the other day and I found an article that someone had written for Mixmag, and then I hit her up, I found her on Twitter, I asked her for her email and was able to secure like a write-up about one of our tracks, and like the way I felt was like so amazing. I was like, yes, get in. Yeah. So I definitely feel like the label kind of, it makes me feel good doing things for other people. I think that's what I really enjoy, is that part of, you know, because all the other roles of like being a presenter or DJ can often be quite self-serving. You know, you're obviously doing it for audience, but you know, it's for you, isn't it? Whereas the label kind of really is for other people, and I do thrive off of that.
Do you like have a specific like ethos for your label and you know, an approach for the type of artist that you sign?
So we kind of want, our thing has always been about being a launch pad. So we kind of want to, I come across so many artists that I think are sick and I think the world needs to like know about. So it's kind of like a way of shining the light, giving them a launch pad, and then off you go, flourish, do your thing. And musically, it's kind of what I play on the Tuesday night radio show, but then also what I play as a DJ as well. So it kind of really is like my musical loves and people that I genuinely like that I'm signing. And then now we're starting to get people sending in demos, which is fun as well. I did like a tweet out for some demos and stuff, and then one of those became the person that I mentioned that we've just signed for a big EP. So yeah, I just, you know, Tongues is a really good example, because as mentioned, they're an indie band, kind of like an indie funk band, and I wouldn't have thought about releasing their music. I'd supported a couple of their songs on the radio, but they hit me up and they were like, so what's this Future Bounce thing about them? And I was like, oh, it's like a label and events thing. And they were like, okay, well, we'd love to like submit some demos. And I was like, oh, do you know what? Like, okay, why not? And then they sent some demos that I thought were really great over. And I basically had to learn how to launch a band. And I had like no experience whatsoever, like at all. And that's how I connected with Georgie, actually. So I sat down with someone that produces Jack Saunders' show, Fuzz, who's really great. And I was like, Fuzz, I've got to launch a band. Where do I start? What do I do? And she was like, you need the Georgie seal of approval. You're going to need BBC introducing. And we kind of basically just like worked off a big tick list of achievements for them to kind of be solidified as a band. And now they've just been signed to, I think it's Big Heist or Dirty Heist, a label, a bigger independent label, which is great to see that the work that we did kind of gave them that opportunity in a sense.
Yeah, such vital early stages just to get those seeds sown, and then it like builds nicely, doesn't it? You mentioned like lots of artists getting in touch with you. Have you got any do's and don'ts for people that are how is the best way for them to contact you? And what should they do and what should they not do?
Okay, so don't DM me. Don't DM me your musical links, because the chances are I'm not going to go through them and I won't check them out. If you DM me and ask me the best way to get music to me, then I would say to you, email me at musicforjamzsupernova.com. And that's kind of my email. And I have a friend called Shaz, he actually writes for Clash Mag, and he helps me go through those sort of unsolicited submissions, and kind of brings me the best top 10 every week. Because I think it is really important to have, for an artist, you know, in their early stages, to have direct contact with people that are, I guess, tastemakers, gatekeepers, whatever you want to call it, because it can feel like it's so hard to get your music through. And if I only went off of my inbox alone, I'd never get through it. So I got him on board to help me with that, and it's been really fruitful. We've been giving people their first ever plays on the radio, and you know, really being able to kind of be wider with who we're playing. But I would just say the Music for Jamz Supernova email is the best way to contact me. DMs I just find it overwhelming. They don't work. And send download links. People forget that we're radio. You sending me your Spotify link it doesn't really do anything for me. If you want me to play your music, I need a download link. I need a download link that doesn't expire. I need a little bit of info on you. I don't need your life story, but a little bit of info. Attach the PR with the bigger info. You know, like email etiquette is really important to me, because it can be so long-winded when someone emails you and they're like, hey Jam, just wanted to share this song with you. If you like it, let me know. I'll send you a WAV. And then by that point, I'm just kind of like, I've just got 30 songs that I could play.
Yeah, and that you've got a WAV for. Yeah,
that I got a WAV for. And for me to email you to get the WAV, to ask for it just takes up so much time. So I think it's like, if you want someone to play your music on the radio and you don't have that initial relationship with them, then make it easy for them.
What would you say is your biggest achievement so far?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think definitely getting the show. I think I've had other achievements to date, but if I was to talk about, and I think I'm going into like a next cycle of my career now. But if I was to look back at the last 5 years, I think my biggest achievement to date was getting the show on One Extra initially, because it took me 5 years to do so. So I was working at the BBC from 19, got the show at 24, and it took 5 years of them saying no. First year, no, you're not good enough. Then you're not good enough. Okay, yeah, you're quite good, but no one knows who you are. Yeah, you're good now, but you're not what we're looking for. Yeah, you're good now, but we haven't got any space to then get in the show. So I think that kind of learning to like deal with that level of rejection every year of something that you want so bad and it's all you can think about, sometimes to the point that I don't think it's healthy to be like that in hindsight. I think knowing that makes me know that I can do anything. Like, I don't know how long it will take. It might take me 60 years, but I know that I would eventually get there. I think I've definitely carried that going forward. I think that's a big achievement for me to put on a personal level, not even just what I got physically of the show, but like on a personal level of like lighting something in me that if I know that if I want it, I can have it. I don't know when, but I will get it.
Yeah. That's so good to hear, because I guess like so much of this, both of our industries are about knockbacks and rejections, and the fact that your proudest moment is when you like persevered through all of that and like got to where you wanted to be is like so heartening to hear, because I think it can be really soul destroying when all you hear is no. Yeah,
100%.
And also that process of not being afraid to actually to follow up, to refine what you're doing, to keep in touch, to send another demo. You know, if you have been knocked back from someone, or you know you haven't been right for them then, it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't mean that you're not right for them in 3 years time or after a bit of work and changing, tweaking and stuff. And with the DJing, when did you learn to DJ, and how did you have anyone show you how to use decks, and or did you kind of self-teach and just then throw yourself into doing gigs?
I think I started DJing quite late, because I'd always wanted to DJ for the longest time, but then I kind of it's just never something that I did. And I thought that I missed my chance. So I thought that, I'm too old now. And this is when I was 23. I thought I'm too old now. I'm never going to learn it. But I had a good mentor called G-Child, aka Gavin, who used to be on One Extra, who mentored me from 18. And he was just like, come on, let's just do it. He sold me his decks for very, very cheap, considering at the times that we were in, like they were good decks and he let me pay them off month by month. And he gave me like a couple of like basic lessons, like what do the buttons do? But I think it's really hard to teach somebody how to DJ. I think you can learn like what this does. You can try and teach counting, beats and stuff like that, but ultimately you can't control what other people hear. So I think that for me, I just spent a long time in the living room now when I lived on my own, just like mixing the same songs. I think I spent a year mixing the same 2 songs. And then I was like, right, I should learn something new now.
What were they?
And I learned mostly I think it was like a Skepta. I know it was oh my God, actually, it's so embarrassing. I think it was a Skepta and Avicii record.
Nice.
I can't remember what song it was. Not Avicii, or maybe, I can't remember what it was before. It was really bad. It was. There's 2 songs into each other continuously. And then I kind of learned a lot on electronic music to begin with, and then slowly kind of delved into like hip hop and stuff like that, and being like thrown in the spot. But I would say that, because I started on Serato vinyl first, and then the clubs didn't have any, that was when clubs didn't look after their vinyl. And you had to bring your own needle, and it was a nightmare.
With Tractor, and you'd be plugging in after some drunk person had let
stress.
Needles wouldn't work, and then it was too
stress. Yeah, it's too much. And I'm quite a nervy person anyway, so with that on top, I just having meltdowns and sweating my whole way through the set. And then I moved on to Serato CDJs, and then something just wasn't really like, I don't know, I just didn't really feel like I was connecting with the DJing. And it wasn't until I got onto USBs that I just felt like I was able to have personality in the way that I mix and try things out. And I think the style in which I mix really came through when I went on USBs about 4 years ago, I'd say. And then I was kind of like actually learning how to DJ, because I've been so visual, and I'm a very visual learner. So for me, it was like trusting my ears, and learning how to DJ. And that way I kind of felt like all those couple of years prior, I wasn't really DJing, because, you know, you're just watching. And it is a DJing form. I'm not mad at it. But for me personally, I became a much better DJ when I went on USBs, and I got a lot more gigs when I went on USBs.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm the same. We followed the same thing, like the lugging. I found my DJ bag in lockdown, tried to set up all my stuff, and it worked.
Yeah.
The operating system, I was like, right, well, that was a waste of money.
I tried to sell the Serato box that I had left. I think it might have been like last January. I always have a big clear out and take everything down to the charity shops. But I thought, you know what? Let me just go cash converters and see what. And he said it's not worth the money, love. Sorry. I was like, how dare you?
Oh no, what a bad.
I know. Yeah.
The cash converter.
Yeah, exactly. It was a low moment for me.
Oh dear. Well, you mentioned that you've been like having this time to reflect and thinking on things. Like, has it kind of brought up some new ideas for the future? Like, what kind of projects have you got on the horizon?
Yeah, I think it's kind of made me think about the things, you know, you always have the things that like niggle away at you, like the things that you maybe don't think you have time to do, but you know that you want to do them. So I think the things that keep coming up for me is I definitely want to, so on One Xtra, I had a thing called DIY Generation, which is, it's still online, you can find it. It's basically short podcast style interviews with loads of different creatives and entrepreneurs from up and down the UK on how they've done what they've done. But really, like, very much to the point, but how, my thing is like, but how and when and how, you know. So I'd love to kind of take everything that I've learned. We're going to call it Jamz Supernova's DIY Handbook. So I love a podcast series, and I'd love to write a book. I was really inspired by, you know, Elizabeth Day, How to Fail.
I love that.
Great book, love it. It's such a good read. I'd love to write a book like that, but using the DIY handbook as the kind of theme of it. And I really want to get into music supervision. I watch a lot of TV. I watch so much TV, like the most amount of TV. My mom's like, I don't understand how you do it and you work so much. But like when I'm traveling, like Netflix, like get to the hotel, Netflix, after a gig, Netflix. And even when I'm home, like I can watch a season in a day if I set my mind to it. But I love the music that gets featured in TV shows, and I think I'd love to explore that as a supervisor.
Yeah. Cool. What have you been watching recently that you've been really impressed with the music?
I love Insecure. I actually reached out to the music supervisor. So Insecure is a show that's headed up by Issa Rae. It's about this girl, kind of quirky girl in LA, and her coming of age in a way, like late 20s going into her 30s. And the music's like, it's basically like my radio show in a TV format, and we have so much crossover. I'm like, oh, they got the exclusive on that, okay. And I just messaged him. I probably haven't done anything like that in a long time. I thought I was drunk. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to message him. I'm just going to be like, hey, Keir, really love your work. Would love to have you on the One Xtra show, but I'd also just love to pick your brain. And then he actually got back to me. So I thought, like, lockdown is the perfect time. Maybe hit up that person that inspires you, because you don't know, they might just get back to you, and who knows? I could be his assistant next year. Fingers crossed. Yeah, and they're the main two things that I think I need to set some time to delve into. And then I think I just definitely kind of like the label's almost taken a life of its own with this club series. So I think it's just about like being consistent, and having the time to work on it during lockdown's been amazing. So I think I need to it's taught me like new routines and new ways of rolling things out. So just trying to work smarter and not harder. That's my aim.
Yeah, there's so many amazing Netflix, like, well, we had BBC Three's Normal People, and then Euphoria is another one that springs to mind, but where there's moments in those programs where the music comes in and it's back, and like,
even Ozark. I love it.
Ozark as well.
Yeah.
Like that with Normal People, when John Hopkins came on in one of the scenes, and I was just like, the soundtrack is so good. Yeah, it's such a fun job.
Yeah, I would love it. I think it'd be amazing. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're like a connoisseur when it comes to new music. So are there any two artists that you are just loving right now that are new that we should go and get on the speakers straight away?
Okay. What have I been listening to that I've really been enjoying? there's so many. I feel like I'm a music connoisseur, but I'm also a bit of a music whore at the same time. I just like, do you know what? There's a really nice EP actually, which I'm excited. I'm going to play on my show next week by this kid called Dijon. He used to be part of this crew called Abby Dijon, and Neo actually sampled one of their songs on her first album. And he's just, this EP, he's just really kind of like found his own rhythm and his own voice with it, and I'm excited to play that. I've made a note of it. I didn't play it last week, and I was like, you know what, I need to play it. So check out Dijon. It's Dijon. And then I love India Jordan right now. So they are a DJ and producer from, I think they're from Doncaster originally, or up north. And they're signed to a Local Action, which is a great label. And they kind of make like disco, funk and rave music that sounds like it would have sat perfectly in the 80s and 70s and early 90s, but it's like now. So definitely go and check them out. They just dropped a new EP, which is really good. So yeah, those two.
Well, thank you so much, Jamz. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. And thank
No
you
worries.
for taking the time to come on to the Superwomen channel. We've loved it.
No worries. I enjoy it. Yeah, you too, lovely ladies. Thank you for what you're doing. I think people, now more than ever, just want the veil to be lifted and like see what's happening. And I think it's great that you guys are doing that.